History is not a random sequence of events. There are moments, quiet, almost unnoticed, when time itself seems prepared for something new. In the closing years of the 19th century, Australia was a land in transition, shaped by change, stirred by new ideas, and drawn toward a future not yet fully seen. And then, in a simple park in Adelaide, on an ordinary day in 1880, two men arrived, unaware that they were stepping into a moment prepared by God.
Thank you for joining me on my YouTube channel today. It's a pleasure to have you with us, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. My name is David Woodbury, and I'm a retired Major in the Salvation Army with a long-standing interest in Salvation Army history and heritage. Through this channel, I enjoy sharing stories from the past, and I trust you will find today's presentation both informative and enjoyable. On the 5th of September in 1880, two English immigrants, John Gore and Edward Saunders, gathered in Botanic Park, Adelaide, to hold the very first Salvation Army meeting. Yet, as they stood there, they could hardly have imagined the powerful forces already at work, forces that would go on to shape the future of the emerging nation of Australia. In the closing decades of the 1800s, the British Empire still held strong influence across this region. Yet signs of change were emerging. Events like the Eureka Stockade in Ballarat in 1854 revealed a growing spirit of nationalism, a rising desire for democracy, and an increasing dissatisfaction with British control. In Australia, the era of convict transportation from Great Britain officially ended in October 1868, and from that point on, the push toward becoming a nation began to gather real momentum, not just among political leaders, but within everyday community. The discovery of gold in Australia in the 1850s and the further finds that followed in the decades after sparked a steady stream of immigration. As people poured into the colony, both the population and the economy grew rapidly. Among these new arrivals were individuals who had already encountered the Salvation Army in their home countries, bringing that influence with them. New ways of moving people and sharing information are transforming life across the colonies. Expanding rail networks make travel faster and more accessible, helping ideas and news spread quickly from place to place. By 1883, Sydney and Melbourne are connected by rail, and by 1889 it's possible to journey all the way from Brisbane to Adelaide by train. At the same time, communication is being revolutionised. The first telegraph network is established in 1854, and by 1872 the overland telegraph links Australia to the wider world, making near-instant communication across great distances a reality. Even though the great wool clippers, sailing ships like the Cutty Sark, are still sailing the oceans, their era is beginning to fade. Steamships are taking their place, bringing a new level of speed and reliability to travel between the West and South Pacific and the wider world. From 1856 onward, a monthly steamship mail service links Australia with England, keeping the colonies more closely connected than ever before. New technologies are also changing how people see the world. Photography and soon moving pictures allow those in Australia to catch visual glimpses of events far beyond their shores. The invention of the movie camera, known as the cinematograph, in the 1890s proves especially significant for the young Salvation Army in Australia, as it begins using film as a powerful new way to share the gospel message. In Australia, working life is beginning to change. Conditions are slowly becoming fairer as governments respond to growing concerns. In 1873, Victoria passes its first Factory Act, introducing protections for women and children and setting standards for safer, more sanitary workplaces. At the same time, the union movement is gathering strength and starting to shape public life. Trade unions have existed in Australia for some time, but a major step forward comes in 1879 when the first Intercolonial Trade Union Congress meets in Sydney. From there, unions begin to play a powerful role across New South Wales, Victoria and South Australia, especially in the push for the 8-hour working day. Education is also undergoing a major transformation. Across Australia, communities are becoming increasingly literate and better educated as the idea of free schooling begins to take hold. In 1867, New South Wales introduces the Public Schools Act, paving the way for broader access to education. Just a few years later, in 1873, Victoria follows by moving towards compulsory education in secular schools, ensuring that more children are given the opportunity to learn. The women's suffrage movement has struck a resonant chord with women in Australia, and the movement towards electoral equality becomes a reality in South Australia in 1894 and in the newly federated nation of Australia in 1902. By the late 1800s, life across Australia is being reshaped in a profound way. Major social, political and economic reforms are influencing how people think and how they live. At the same time, advances in technology are breaking down the old isolation of the colonies, with faster communication and easier travel connecting communities like never before. In many ways, Australia is beginning to move beyond its convict origins and step forward into a new identity, one that is gradually forming the foundations of a new nation. When the Salvation Army first appears in Adelaide on the 5th September 1880, the conditions are already in place for it to make a lasting impact across the region. From the very beginning, its leadership is bold, creative and forward-looking, shaping an organisation that is mobile, energetic and especially engaging to working-class communities. Embracing the new technologies of the time, the Army quickly uses every available means to share its message far and wide, proclaiming God's love and salvation for all people. Now, there are some remarkable parallels between the birth of the Christian Church in the 1st century and the beginnings of the Salvation Army in Australia in the late 1800s. The rapid growth of the Christian Church in the 1st century was no accident. Rather, it unfolded according to God's deliberate timing in human history. As Paul suggests, the coming of Christ was carefully timed by God to occur at just the right moment in the unfolding of the world. In his letter to the Galatian church, Paul captures this idea clearly when he writes, "But when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his Son." This reminds us that God is not distant from history, but actively working within it to accomplish his purposes. As one writer observes, God arranged for the gospel to be proclaimed at a time when it could spread with the greatest impact and effectiveness. In the 1st century, the rapid spread of the gospel and the growth of the Christian church were greatly supported by several key factors. The Pax Romana, or Roman peace, provided a relatively stable and secure environment across much of the empire. At the same time, an extensive network of Roman roads made travel faster and more direct than ever. Adding to this, the widespread use of the Greek language gave much of the known world a common means of communication, helping the message of the gospel to cross cultural and geographical boundaries. In the late 19th century, a similar set of conditions helped pave the way for the rise and expansion of the Salvation Army in Australia. The Pax Britannica, or British peace, provided a stable and secure environment in which this British-based movement could establish itself. By 1880, when the Salvation Army first appeared in the region, the British Empire under Queen Victoria was at its very height, offering both order and protection for new initiative. At the same time, advances in transport were making it easier than ever for people to travel quickly across long distances. Communication was also being transformed. English had become the common language of trade throughout much of the region, while the telegraph was now widely used for rapid communication, and the emerging invention of the telephone was beginning to come into operation. From our vantage point in history, we can trace the hand of God moving to establish and build His Salvation Army at an opportune moment in the development of Australia. During the latter part of the 19th century, as the Salvation Army made its appearance, there were great social, economic and infrastructure changes and development. There is little doubt that many parts of Australia were now ready for change. There was a move to throw off colonial shackles and move towards freedom and independence. While it could well have been a time of revolution and bloodshed, it is interesting to note that Australia's journey to nationhood stands out in history for its peaceful character. In 1901, the Commonwealth was formed not through conflict, but through agreement, dialogue, and the will of the people across the colonies. As Australia advanced towards federation and the formation of a nation, the Salvation Army began to take root within the life of the community. Through its work in both evangelism and social service, it became closely interwoven into everyday society, earning a distinctive and lasting place in the hearts and minds of the people of Australia.
Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you found it both informative and enjoyable. If you would like to stay up to date with future releases, I invite you to join our mailing list. Simply send an email to the address shown below, include your email address, and I'll be pleased to add you to the list. As a subscriber, you will receive notification whenever a new video is published on this channel.